Civil Services Prelims exam is round the corner now, and it becomes important for us to be clear in all this chaos as to how is it that you can revise effectively and therefore increase your chances of success in preliminary examination of civil services exam. तो मैं आज जो बात करने वाला हूँ that is going to be focused upon how do you exactly revise well for the examination, and through that revision how do you increase your score in the examination. Now there can be a lot of organized, structured, scientific methods of revision which can help you reduce your effort, increase your outcomes. I have been a student in the past, I have given UPSC interviews twice, so I know that with sheer hard work also you can very much clear prelims, mains and reach the interview stage. But with better organization skills, you can do all of this with little effort, with more free mind, with better outcomes and with less torture on your life. So why not do that? Therefore, in this session, I want specifically to talk about the sequence of your prep, and there I will focus specifically a lot on how do you revise, how do you do active recall, how do you make your notes to make sure that these notes can actually help you one day before your prelims examination. What exactly do I mean when I say organization and structuring, and how can it help you in your preparation? I will show all of that to you through examples as well. So stay with me if you actually want to learn this. Otherwise, leave the video. You do not have to watch the entire thing. Let me come to the sequence first. Spend about 5 minutes on the sequence, and through this sequence only we'll try and figure out the importance and how it affects our overall effort and outcomes in prelims examination. Step 1 normally when you start preparing is to complete your syllabus, and this is time consuming process. It has almost taken for you a year or probably even more than that right now. Step 2 is completing current affairs, and these two things normally go simultaneously for majority of civil services aspirants. They're time consuming, but I call them easy. You might be thinking that they're so difficult, why am I writing easy? I call them easy because what you do right here is even more difficult. But if you actually understand this, this becomes the easy part, this becomes the difficult part. That is where I want us to be, that this is difficult, but once you are done with this difficult part, then this step 3 and step 4 is so easy that this difficult part also now becomes easy. That is where I want all of us to be. So here the first one is step 1 and step 2 जो आप लोग सब follow कर रहे होगे, which is completing the syllabus and completing the current affairs. This is our primary focus normally when we are preparing for this examination. Now let's come to step 3, step 4, step 5, one by one. Step 3 and step 4 are before prelims, and step 5 normally happens after prelims. So I will not focus a lot on this. बस mention कर दूंगा मैं so that you know कि prelims के बाद क्या करना है हमको. Step 3 and step 4 में exactly करना क्या होता है. Without this, you might clear prelims, you might clear mains as well, but आप scores को excellent level पे नहीं ले जा पाओगे, and that is where a lot of students lie. They keep writing mains again and again. They feel that they are very close to success, to clearing the exam, but they are not able to do it. Why? Because they are not following step 3 and step 4. When they are not doing that, automatically they get eliminated after interview or even before interview at times. Like I used to get eliminated. I would lose the final cutoff by 5 marks, 6 marks very often, and I felt I'm very close, but I was not very close actually. In reality, I was not doing these two steps. That is why again and again I was getting stuck in that cycle. Now what are these two steps? Number 1 or step 3 is revision using notes. Now this looks very simple, but it is not so simple. In fact, it requires a different way of thinking and making notes. Good notes, I will show you how good notes look like. Good notes are the ones which are able to connect your effort to your objective. What is your ultimate objective? Your ultimate objective as a student of civil services is very clear. Be very clear about this, is that one day before the examination you should be able to use those notes to revise. If I pick up history notes right now, then I should be able to revise the entire history that I have studied in 3-4 months in 3-4 days. If my short notes are not helping that, then those short notes are useless. If my short notes are not making that happen and ultimately giving me results in the exam, then those short notes are useless. So your effort in making short notes should be able to fulfill an objective of helping you revise in a very short span of time, because you have probably 10 subjects that you have to revise in 30 odd days, so that you can actually remember them and use them, apply them in your prelims exam. So objective is be able to use these short notes to revise and remember in a very short span of time. If these short notes are not fulfilling this purpose, then they are useless. So revision using notes is your step 3, because you cannot keep going back to your books. You cannot keep reading Lakshmikant again and again. You have to get rid of Lakshmikant once you have read it and then stick with your notes. This is where the difference lies. We keep making notes. I also had amazing notes. People saw my notes and they said, why are you not getting through? Your notes are amazing. My notes were amazing, but they were too long. So I was not able to revise using notes. I was able to read using notes, and I was spending a lot of time on that reading. The fourth step is, don't worry, I will talk about these using sample examples as well, which will make it very clear to you. The fourth step is mock tests and revision using these mocks. Now you all must be doing it, and a lot of, if not all, a lot of students must be doing this already. But I know a lot of students are not, either not doing it or are doing it incorrectly. So using some sample questions, I will help you understand how do you actually use your mock questions, mock tests to revise better, to revise in a more holistic manner. What do you do with these mock tests that you can revise better? That is what we will do as well. So these are two important steps, step 3 and step 4. They require a little bit of organization, not a lot, but once you have cracked it, it makes all that you have read in step 1 and step 2 a lot more easy to remember, recall, apply in the examination. That is our objective. Okay, and then comes our step 5, which is the most difficult part, which comes after prelims, which is answer writing. I will not focus on answer writing right now, probably after prelims, not at this moment, but this is where a lot of students lack. I also lacked a lot in this area. Even then, despite that, I was able to get through mains with decent scores and go to the interview. If you can master this, and it is not very difficult to master, just requires a lot of hand holding, a lot of own willpower, a lot of mentorship. If you can do that, it's going to be super easy for you to crack this. Step 3, step 4, मैं already इसकी बात कर चुका हूँ, but briefly फिर से बता देता हूँ, and then we'll move to some samples. So here you use short notes to revise your syllabus and then try active recall. I will show it to you how active recall will work here. In current affairs revision also use coaching notes and try active recall. Now here, number 1, you use your short notes to revise, you use active recall to revise, and then you use mocks to revise. Let me take you through some samples and help you understand by giving you some live examples. So I will take you through chapter number 3 for me as an economy teacher of unemployment. I call this chapter as chapter number 3. I've named it chapter 3 because I believe for a country like India, it's very important to read unemployment in the beginning only, and I can connect it with other chapters here. Nevertheless, let's move on. Let me help you understand. Now, these are short notes that I have created for myself and for my students. For example, how does it work? Let's say you've read the entire chapter unemployment, you've read the entire economy, and now you want to revise. But you don't want to revise just by reading. You should not be doing that. Number 1 is revising using short notes. These short notes should actually be short. So for example, if I'm talking about unemployment types, so here I have mentioned all the types of unemployment in my short notes, 9 major types of unemployment, and then I have explained all the types of unemployment. You can make them even shorter by just mentioning keywords. My short notes are a little long because I give these to students, and I want the students to be able to use them wisely, and therefore a little long, but you can make it even shorter for yourself. Now, how do you revise using these short notes? First of all, short notes have to be short, and then the second point is ability to be able to revise using these short notes. For example, I ask myself this question and then everything is black. My question is what? One second. Okay, let me remove this because it's not working properly. Okay, let's say my question is, what are the different types of unemployment? This is my question that you can probably now see on the screen. So my question is, what are the different types of unemployment? This is my only question. I've asked this question from myself, and now without looking at the answer, I probably hide this answer with a notebook or something, or if I'm sitting on an iPad, I close it, and then I ask myself, okay, Jindal, ask yourself and answer what are the different types of unemployment. Okay, 9 major types of unemployment: seasonal, frictional, structural, disguised, or let's say cyclical, chronic, open, casual. Major types that I can remember. Okay, probably I'm able to remember 8. Then I start writing down. Okay, you can remember majority of the types of unemployment, write them down in a rough notebook, and then explain all of them in simple words, in simple sentences. Casual unemployment, what does it mean? Seasonal unemployment, what does it mean? Cyclical unemployment, what does it mean? How is cyclical different than seasonal? How is frictional unemployment different than structural unemployment? Okay, what is voluntary unemployment? What is involuntary unemployment? So whatever I can remember, I try and write it down on a piece, on a rough sheet, on a rough paper. एक rough notebook ले लो, उसमें लिखना शुरू कर दो. And then you match your answer with the answer that you have in your short notes. You go to your short notes and start comparing what answer you have given versus what you wrote in your short notes. This way, what will happen, in 30 minutes, 40 minutes, you will be completely exhausted, but you will realize that once you're able to recall something on your own without actually looking at the answer, then you will never forget it. At least for the next 3-4 months, your memory is going to remember it. Your brain is going to remember it because it has gone to your permanent memory. It is not there in your RAM anymore. वो permanent hard disk में चला गया है. That is what differentiates successful students from the students who read a lot, who are following step 1 and 2, but they're not going to step 3. So they're not making short notes which are short enough, and then they're also not able to use these short notes to do active recall. Once you have these two things, then you will feel that I can remember the entire Indian economy book by Dr. Ramesh Singh or Nitin Singhania sir. I can revise the entire thing in a day by myself without actually even looking at the answers. Similarly, I pick up history spectrum or I pick up Lakshmikant, and now I don't need to pick them up. I can use my short notes, and using my short notes, I can revise everything wonderfully. That is how you can take your preparation to the next level. The next thing that I want to show you and explain to you is how do you use your mocks, your mock test to revise? How do you use your mock test to do active recall simultaneously? Let me give you an example. An example here is this one. This question says, which of the following is the correct formula, again from the chapter of unemployment, which of the following is the correct formula of calculating labor force participation rate? A keyword, labor force participation rate. Firstly, I try to answer the question correctly. I solve the entire paper. Once I'm getting back to the paper, instead of just seeing whether I've answered it correctly or not, I try and define myself, okay, what is LFPR, labor force participation rate? What is India's labor force participation rate right now as per periodic labor force survey? So connecting it with current affairs, this is how it is done. You don't have to use the word connecting also. You can simply ask yourself, okay, what are the facts, latest facts related to labor force participation rate in India? Number one. Secondly, what are the other terms in unemployment chapter that I need to remember? Workforce participation rate, unemployment rate, various other terms. Labor force क्या होता है, workforce क्या होता है, employed कौन है, unemployed कौन है, what are these people, how are they calculated, different terminologies and their different formulas. Do I remember them or not? If I had read them, if they're there in my short notes, then I should be able to recall them. So ask yourself and start writing on a rough notebook. Once you are done with that, then you go back to your chapter. So I will go back to my chapter on unemployment. Basically, I'm going back to my short notes and I'm seeing whether I have mentioned major terms or not. So let me go up and see if I have mentioned very major terms or not. मैंने कुछ terms डाले हैं या नहीं डाले हैं? Yes, here you will find what are some important terms. What are some important terms to understand unemployment? So we have labor force, workforce, labor supply, labor force participation rate, workforce participation rate, total unemployed, unemployment rate, proportion of unemployed. तो मेजर हमारे पास 2, 2, 4, 2, 6, 2, 8 8 terms we have that we have to remember under unemployment. ये मुझे clear हो गया. Now I will try and recall and write what do these terms mean without actually looking at the answer. I will try and define to myself what is the meaning of labor force. Labor force कौन होता है? People who are employed, seeking employment, people who are employed, seeking employment, and who are available to work. This entire population of people forms a part of labor force. ये employed हैं and at the same time basically these are unemployed people. So a person who's seeking work, who's available to work, basically means he's not employed but he's looking for employment, so he's unemployed. So labor force in short is employed people plus unemployed people. अब उसमें से अगर हम unemployed हटा देंगे तो हमारा workforce आ जाएगा. So workforce is just another term of people who are employed. और इसमें एज ग्रुप क्या होता है 15 to 59 एज पर पीरियोडिक लेबर फोर्स सर्वे. तो ऐसी चीजें जब आप खुद रिकॉल करोगे विदाउट लुकिंग एट द आंसर जो नीचे सब मेंशन्ड है, व्हेन यू स्टार्ट डूइंग दैट ऑटोमेटिकली यू विल फील मोर कॉन्फिडेंट, नंबर वन. सेकेंडली यू विल बी एबल टू रिमेंबर all of this for a longer time period. That is why I say that if you have taken one test in one day of 100 questions, then make sure that you are analyzing that same test in the entire day. And if something is missing, let's say these terms are missing in your short notes and there was a question based upon these terms in any of the tests, and you trust that test कि यार ये अच्छा टेस्ट क्वालिटी का है, अच्छे इंस्टीट्यूट का है, अच्छी क्वालिटी का है, there can be a question from terms. So let me read on terms on unemployment and let me add those to my short notes so that tomorrow when I start doing active recall from my short notes, then again I do not forget to revise these terms. That is how you make your short notes even more comprehensive. Latest facts not available in my short notes on unemployment. Periodic labor force survey I have not yet covered in my notes on unemployment. Let me add those today itself. I write it down, and once I'm done with the entire analysis of all the questions, then I start with this exercise. It is going to take your entire day, but it's worth it. And it is going to be worth it only when you can use, मैं वापस वहीं पे आ रहा हूँ, it is going to be worth it only when you can use all this effort that you are putting in this single day in fulfilling your final objective. What is that objective? To be able to revise, recall, apply all of that you are reading in a very short span of time, probably 15 days, 10 days. In a very short span of time, you should be able to revise all of this, recall all of this, be able to apply all of this in the examination. And you can do that only when you follow this approach that you have short notes. Your short notes are flexible, you can change them, you have enough space to add things, and you are using active recall to make sure that you remember these short notes by yourself and you do not have to go back to your books, and you are actually using the mock test to work on these short notes, to keep adding to these short notes to make them more and more holistic. Okay, you're using your mock test to do active recall as many times as possible also. That ways you keep reminding yourself that I have to keep going back to my short notes. These notes are going to be my gold mine. Ultimately, they are going to result in my selection. But only when these short notes are created in a holistic manner, they're flexible, they're created online, and finally, they're short enough so that they can help you actually revise before the examination, and you don't have to go back to your books in order to remember all of this. That is the most important part. Okay, so this is all for today's session. I'm very sure that it was helpful in certain areas. This is how you can actually revise using syllabus and current affairs, using these four major steps. Step 1 and 2, time consuming, but this is dealt with reading. You've probably already done with all of this. Now start with step 3 and 4 if you're not doing that already. If you don't have notes, now is not the time to make notes. Get notes from somewhere and start using active recall to revise using those notes. Okay, and simultaneously make sure that you're also using mock test to do active recall, so that you can ultimately use all of that information in the final examination. हमें लगता है हमारा ब्रेन जो आज पढ़ा है 30 दिन बाद याद रहेगा, बट वो 2 दिन बाद भूल जाते हैं. So do not be so confident about your brain in the first instance as well. First test it, and you can test it very well using active recall. Okay, that is all from my side. If you have any doubts, you can pen it down, write it down in the comment section below. Keep studying hard. Prelims is round the corner. I will see you very soon again. All the best. Jai Hind.